Welcome back to Hobby Jogger Elite, and welcome to the video, to my introduction to the Nike Pegasus line. Now that may come as a surprise to you who have been watching the channel for a while now, knowing that I have been running for several years, buying running shoes for several years. If you were to ask experienced runners who have been around for decades at this point, what the sort of flagship shoe of recreational running has been in past decades, it is likely that they would say it is the Nike Pegasus, because as indicated by the iteration they are on now, the Nike Pegasus 40, it's been around for a while. I'm sure if you asked those runners as well what adjectives, descriptors they would use to describe the Nike Pegasus, they would probably say boring, run-of-the-mill, standard, which isn't disparaging in this case. I think there is, in my opinion, a space for shoes that are like the Nike Pegasus that have pretty much no bells and whistles. This is pretty much as standard as it gets, just a sort of normal mesh upper, a very traditional 10mm drop, a block of EVA foam here, nice rubber coverage, and that's just kind of it. There isn't a lot to this shoe. The reason I'm wearing a boring shoe like the Nike Pegasus, but more overall trying to reintroduce shoes like this, is because I miss my early days of running. Because there was such a strong juxtaposition between when I would run my normal daily training miles and when I would lace up even a slightly not boring shoe. For the first real year of training that I did in the lead up to my second half marathon, which was kind of my first half marathon where I really took things more seriously, I was running in a shoe like the Nike Miler, for instance. It was 11 ounces, it was thick, it was hot, it was clunky, it was heavy, it was boring. Long runs in that shoe, I was running workouts in that shoe. Towards the very end of that training block, bought my first ever lightweight shoe. I had no idea what it felt like to run in a shoe that was less than 10 ounces. I buy the Hoka Rincon, which in the age of super shoes is like a very stripped down shoe still. Pretty lightweight. I think it was in like the 7 to 7.5 ounce range, but it was simply some thin mesh glued on top of a thicker, lightweight, airy piece of EVA foam. And when I put those shoes on, it felt like I had superpowers. It felt like I was flying, and it didn't have a TPU plate, a nylon plate, a carbon plate, any interesting midsole geometry, any like high-tech nitrogen infused foam. It was just very bare bones, but it felt like such a difference going from my daily trainer to that. And then when I eventually, a few months later, tried the Endorphin Speed 1 for the first time, it felt like I was cheating wearing that shoe. And that just has like a pretty flexible nylon plate in it. And then a couple of months later, when I tried the Nike Vaporfly Next Percent version 1, it felt like I had broken the system. In matters of 6 to 8 weeks, I was shaving 3 to 5 minutes off my half marathon times. I was going from 133 to 128 to 125 between the end of 2020 and the beginning of 2021. A very long-winded way of saying I'm trying to get back in the habit of training in very boring run-of-the-mill shoes so that when I race in super shoes, it feels like I've been transported to a different world. So between now and when I race here, we can try to recreate that a little bit. So here on my final long run before my half marathon, let's give some first impressions of what it's like in early 2024 to run in the Nike Pegasus 40 after being inundated with super shoes for years at this point. Not much to report on when it comes to the shoe. They are sort of like a set it and forget it type of shoe. It's not an exciting ride, but traction is great, sure-footed, and it's delivering what it needs to do. So for a shoe that is so frequently discounted, I should mention I got the shoe for $60 from Nike. It's delivering, it's performing. All right, we are currently around the 7-mile mark. Feels solid, sort of have not had any plan going into this run in terms of effort or pace. Just sort of found a rhythm for what this shoe feels good in. It felt good at sort of that easy pace in the beginning, and now I would say I'm closer to like a steady, easy. For 7 miles, a solid daily trainer. Maybe you want some like up-tempo, easy miles for a steady day. Definitely overall positive experience. Currently at about marathon effort in these, definitely harder than the super shoe experience, but still capable. Back from the run, 12 miles in the books, an average pace 7 minutes 11 seconds per mile. Kind of settled into a nice real steady effort, so nothing really, again, race pace effort, except for the last 2 miles where I kind of tried to tighten the screws a little bit towards sort of a marathon level effort. Everything preceding that was just sort of a steady, nice rhythm. Put it through a bit of a marathon effort pace, and it met those expectations. It did not feel incredible. It did not feel quite as smooth as, say, the Adios Pro 3 or some of these other real marathon super shoes, but the PEGASUS 40, in the least insulting manner, was exactly what I expected it to be. A very run-of-the-mill, predictable, but effective daily trainer that isn't exactly a recovery pace shoe and really settles into a nice rhythm for those steady efforts. Like I said, didn't have any sort of pacing plan for this long run, just to run it easy to steady, and it was definitely more towards that steady state. I think this is absolutely perfect for somebody looking for a nice steady daily trainer. Also somebody who runs like I just ran on gravel paths, because of how that rubber coverage makes you confident on those different types of surfaces. I should say, this shoe does not retail for the price I got it at. I got this for $62, so that sort of contextualizes how satisfied I am with the running experience in it. It feels much more premium, runs much better than a shoe that would retail for under $100, let alone one that is as cheap as $62. The regular retail for the PEGASUS is $130. If I paid $130 for this shoe, I would not be quite as happy, because there are much more lively, exciting, fun shoes out there, like the Rebel, for instance. Like, even if you want to spend a little bit of extra change, getting the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 on sale is in the $130 to $140 range right now. This shoe does not stack up nearly as well with those types of shoes for the full retail price, but it seems like these are always on sale. The PEGASUS always ends up being on sale, so if you can get it for that $60 to $70 price point, definitely give it a try. And those are all my sort of first impressions for the Nike PEGASUS 40. We will catch up soon. Peace.